Hey, what's up you guys, the Curious Owl here, and today I am here with my July D20 TBR. So I did manage to kind of figure out a name for this game that I do now every month, which is just D20 TBR, because ultimately that is the main thing about this. Because basically I have to spin a wheel to get prompts that then my D20 has to decide whether it goes between one book or another that fits that prompt or doesn't fit that prompt, depending on the kind of prompt it is. So ultimately I came down to just D20 TBR seems to be the best way to go about this, because this is the only real element within the entirety of the game. Let's talk about how the month of June went in terms of my D20 TBR. I don't think I ended up mentioning this at all in my June TBR, but there was always a punishment idea where if I didn't finish all of the prompts for the D20 TBR specifically, not including anything that was for readathons or reread series or a Stephen King reading series, if I did not finish the 5 books that were on specifically my D20 TBR, I was going to then have to add another prompt to the next month. And if there ever was a time where I would complete all of those prompts that I would have in a given month, I could then remove a prompt for the next month, so I would be down to 4 prompts. So basically with the last month, I only finished 1 book as of June 28th. Now, I am currently in the middle of my second one, but I do not think I'm going to be able to finish it before the end of the month, so I'm probably not only going to have to carry that book over to finish it up in July, but that does mean that I only finished 1 out of the 5 books I had planned for June, and that means I will have to take a punishment. I am confident that this month in July I will be able to get through more of them, because my hope is that at least one of my books from my Stephen King reading series will fit into my D20 game, but also with July I'm not participating in any readathons. I don't have any buddy reads of any kind that I'm doing, so I should be able to hopefully focus most of my attention to my D20 TBR game, with the exception of hopefully getting one of my Stephen King reading series books on there so that I can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and maybe even hopefully get at least one of my Kissed by an Angel books on there as well, so that I can kill another bird with 1 stone for my reread series. So I'm going to toss it over to Gabby from the slightly past. It was really only earlier today I did this. We'll get the prompts for the D20 game and then go through the books that we have that the D20 is going to have to pick. So we're here to do the wheel spins for the July TBR of my D20 game. I think that that's kind of what I'm going to call it now. I may have already said that before, but you know, that's kind of what we're going with. So without further ado, let's get into the first spin. Because we are doing a punishment with this month because I did not do the reading for the last time, I do have to add on another spin. So this time we're having 6 spins as opposed to 5. So let's do the first of those 6. And we get a big book. Oh crud. Of course it's a big book, the first one. Okay, so do spin number 2 now. And this one comes out to be a new author to me, which I think we had this for June, which is fine, but a new author to me. So it has to be somebody that maybe not necessarily is a debut author, but is somebody I have not read from before. We'll do spin number 3. And that ends up being a graphic novel. Oh, thank God. I have so many graphic novels I've been meaning to read recently. Do spin number 4. And we get a pink book. So something that has pink in the cover, whether it's like the background of it or just it has to have pink somewhere in it. And do spin number 5. We get a loved trope, so a trope that I truly love, which I have quite a few. I think it's going to depend on what I'm kind of in the mood for that also has that kind of trope. And now we're going to do the final spin, spin number 6, which is a yellow book. But yeah, so that's all of them. We have big book, new author to me, graphic novel, pink, loved trope, and yellow. So see you guys when I pick up my book. Okay, so first off, we have the first prompt, which is big book. Now for this one, I did pull in my Stephen King reading series book that I was going to be working on, which is the next book in the Dark Tower series called The Wastelands. This is a hefty book. I consider anything that is a big book to be over 500 pages, and this one is over 600. Let me tell you, 604 pages is The Wastelands. Now that is significantly larger than the drawing of the Three and the Dark Tower, the Gunslinger both were combined. So this is going to probably be the most intimidating read for me, but this is the one I would like to be able to win in this next round just because I have it already set up for my Stephen King reading series. So to kill, like I said, two birds with one stone would be preferable. But the other book that I have that is going up against The Wastelands is called Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. This is an ebook I have. It was really the only thing I could find that I was at all interested in any way that was also over 500 pages. It's a contemporary. I've come to like some of Jodi Picoult's work, and I've been meaning to kind of read more of it. And it's also a standalone, which was another thing I was really trying to use, was the standalone advantage by picking a lot of books that were going to be standalones, because I have several books I would like to start, but they're new series, and I have a lot of books also that I would like to reread that are series, because I have so many that I want to restart this series in order to finish out the series, and I'm just not looking for many new series to start, basically. So we're going with standalones for the most part. Next one was a book that is by a new author to me. So this could be somebody who is a debut author, or this could be somebody who I've never read from before. So for this one, I picked a couple books that were already on my June TBR that I was not going to be able to get to, and both were also on my D20 TBR for last month, and that is The Bromance Book Club by Alyssa K. Adams and The One Memory of Flora Banks by Emily Barr. Both are new authors to me. I've never read anything from these authors before, and because they both were already on my D20 TBR for June and I had the books here, that made it a little bit easier for me to go for these two, because I didn't want to have to go back to my storage unit for too many more books, because I don't have a lot of space here at my parents' house, and I'm trying to whittle down the current TBR I have here, or at least on my Kindle, before I pick up anything else that could take up more space. So the thought is at least one of these will get read. If I have time, I may try to read both of them, but I'm gonna see which one ends up winning. The one I would prefer to win is probably The Bromance Book Club, because I've heard so many good things about it, and it's a romance, an adult romance, and I've become much more acclimated to enjoying the adult romances. And The One Memory of Flora Banks is a young adult contemporary with some possible thriller or mystery points in it, so I am still interested in this one, just not nearly as much as with the Bromance Book Club. Okay, so the next prompt was graphic novel. So the series that I would like to restart and then continue is going to be the Saga graphic novel series by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. Now, I have read the first volume. I have the first 5 volumes here, so I've read the first one, and I would like to read the other 4, because I know there's at least 8, I think there's 9 possibly, and I've just been meaning to kind of pick the series back up and get started with it again. I was going to wait until I had the full series to do that, but I don't know, something about this series has been calling me lately, and I just have a good feeling that it's going to be fun to read. Now, this is not necessarily something I am upset by picking out, it's just, it's not as preferable because it does contain 5 volumes, whereas the other one I have is a 1 volume that I only have, and that is Skin and Earth by Volume 1 by Lights, who, if you guys don't know, Lights is a musical artist. I really like her work. She does a lot of very electronic based stuff, and more recently Lights created basically an entire world surrounding around her music, and this is the graphic novel that is involved in that world. I'm really interested to see kind of how this is, because it's supposed to be post-apocalyptic, it's supposed to involve gods and mortals, romance and cult, and it's actually blurred by Brian K. Vaughan, the author of Saga, who said he really liked it, said it was written, drawn, and lettered by Lights. Skin and Earth is the most impressive debut comic from a creator whose love of the medium shines through in every panel. This book sings. So obviously, if he likes it, then this has got to be at least somehow good. So I'm really excited. And then, like I said, I just really love Lights as an artist by herself. So I'm really excited to see how this one goes. So the next prompt is pink, which is to read a book that has pink in the cover or as like the background of the color. Something, it has to have some kind of pink involved. For this one, I decided to pick up Evercrossed by Elizabeth Chandler, who is the author of the Kiss by an Angel series. Now, this book starts off the technical second trilogy. This is all placed a year after the events of Kissed by an Angel, which if you haven't watched the reread series I've done for these books as of yet, I will link that playlist in the description and in the cards for you guys. And this is a very special place in my heart for me because this is a series I remember myself, my sister, and my sister's friends loving when we were kids. And this series, I just remember the second trilogy that was involved with it, that was made almost 20 years after the original, was so much better. I really liked a lot of what was going on with this series, but I don't want to say it right now because I would like to make sure all my thoughts about it are talked about in the reread video, but basically this is the beginning of the second installment, like I said, a year after the events. Because it's part of my reread series, again, like with my Stephen King reading series, I would like to try to kill two birds with one stone if possible, so I'm hoping this one wins. But the other book that I have pitted against this is The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta, which is a young adult contemporary about a young man, I think, who is a drag queen. I don't remember if there's anything to do with trans representation in this or not. At the very least, he's a drag queen, and he's living also a mixed race young man who is in London, I think, in the London area, and it's supposed to be basically be about his journey and dealing with the fact that he is mixed race and also gay and also in the drag community and how difficult that can be from an outsider's perspective, and basically told through verse, I believe, as well, which I love stories told in verse. It is one of my most favorite ways of writing, and I think that The Black Flamingo is going to end up being one of my more favorites as well. But like I said, preferably I would like to read Evercross just because it is part of my reading series that I am doing. The next prompt is the loved trope prompt. So I decided to pick the magic school trope because I really love magic schools. I think that they're one of my most favorite tropes that have come around because of series like the Harry Potter series and other veins of that as time has gone on. It's always just been something I've really loved because of the escapist aspect of it all. So for this, I picked two books that were listed under kind of the magic schools idea. The first one being The Novice by Taryn Matheru. I remember hearing about this through a booktuber who I no longer follow because of some questionable choices that she has made, but I had purchased them way before that had ever happened. But then the other book that I have is Sabriel by Garth Nix. Now, this one I'm a little bit more hesitant to read because I tried reading Sabriel a few months ago, and for some reason at the time I could not get into it. I don't know if it was because at the time I was going through a bit of a reading slump. I think I had said that I probably wouldn't go back to it, but when I was looking through the list of series that basically involved magic school trope, I saw this one and I was like, I feel like I didn't give this one a fair enough shot, and I would like to return to it because I have a feeling I eventually will like it. But again, because I did DNF it already, it's one I'm not as interested in just because I've already had an issue with it. But if it comes to that I get to this one, I'll end up, really giving it the best shot I can give it at this point. And then the last prompt is to read a book that has yellow in the cover. So this one, I am so excited to say that for this one I have picked You Will Get Through This Night by Daniel Howell. This is a book I was so excited to hear that Dan had created. If you don't know who Daniel Howell is, he had the channel on YouTube, Dan Is Not on Fire. He's still technically on every now and then, he just doesn't post nearly as much, most specifically because he was working on this book for a good while, and the way he talked about it and the way that his friend Phil, who he is in all of Phil's videos almost, talk about this book is it's basically a book that is about mental health, and it's basically not necessarily a self-help book, but it is a book that, from what Dan says, is something that's going to basically make you feel so much less alone about your mental health. Because especially during times like the pandemic in 2020, people's mental health shot through the floor, mine included, and I felt for so long during the pandemic that I was by myself. I was planning a wedding during the pandemic, which was incredibly stressful. I was unsure of where my life was really going. I was really hesitant to reach out to a lot of people because I was scared. I had a lot of mental health issues that basically were hidden beneath the surface for a long time, that in about August of 2020, I finally had to say that I needed help because I was holding a lot of stuff in and it was becoming very hard for me to cope cope with a lot of the anxiety I was feeling on a daily basis. And this book, when I heard that Dan was coming out with it, I was so happy. I actually remember crying, because this is supposed to be a mental health guide in helping you understand that you're not alone when it comes to the mental health issues you face. And it even has little things about how to kind of manage your thoughts in some ways, because Dan has dealt with anxiety and depression his entire life. And so I think he's a well-vetted interest in this, because he's found ways that might have helped him, and this is his way of showcasing that and reaching out to others and saying, you're not alone, here's what I've done, see if this works for you, kind of thing. So I expect to cry my eyes out at this, and I think that when I finish this, I may also watch the new Bo Burnham special, because I've heard a lot of people say that it is really good and is something that has made them cry, but made them feel so many things because of the amount of talk about mental health and the real importance of expressing things about mental health. So I think that this is going to be something I'm going to really enjoy if I get the chance to read it, because I really hope I do with the D20. I hope my D20 is nice to me, at least in this round, if in no other round. But the book I'm going to put up against this is going to be another kind of feel-good story, which is Beach Read by Emily Henry. This is, from what I understand, a romance novel about two writers who basically end up in the same beach house for the summer, and they end up swapping stories because they both have writer's block, I think, and the exercise is to basically have the other person finish their story, and it's supposed to cause some kind of hate to love, possibly, almost. I'm not quite 100% sure. I just know it involves two writers in a beach house who swap stories, and that's about it. But this is, again, another adult romance that has been making the rounds on BookTube, and people have been really seeming to like it a lot, so I'm confident that I'm going to like it as well. But again, this is the one I want to read the most, I think, out of this entire TBR. But let's see if I actually win this round. Okay, so first round, we've got The Wastelands by Stephen King from the Dark Tower series versus Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. Let's see how the D20 is going to have us fare in this first round. And we have an 18, so that means I get to kill two birds with one stone by reading The Wastelands and making sure that this is one of the ones I complete this month so that I can make sure my D20 game goes pretty well. But very excited for this one, but it is a big, chunky book, so did I really win? I don't know, but I feel like I kind of did. Also, that skull train, kind of ominous. I'm a little scared. And now we have round 2, which is The Bromance Book Club by Alyssa K. Adams versus The One Memory of Flora Banks by Emily Barr. Again, both I really seem to be interested in. It's just I don't really know how this is going to go. So let's see how the D20 fares. And we have a 10. So for that, 1 through 10 always ends up being the one that is less likely to be picked by me. So this one, we're going to go with The One Memory of Flora Banks by Emily Barr. Again, I'm not really too upset by this one. It's just kind of more of a contemporary that's got a little bit of mystery to it as opposed to a romance, but not too shabby. And again, it's a little bit smaller, so that kind of makes me feel a little bit better, considering that The Wastelands over there is quite intimidating. Now this one is the big kahuna. So we have the first volume of Skin and Earth by Lights versus volumes 1 through 5 of Saga by Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. So this one, I would like this one to win only because it's the only volume I currently have, whereas this one I'd have to read all 5 of the volumes I currently own. So come on, D20. And we have a 12, so that means I get to read Skin and Earth Volume 1, meaning I don't have to read all 5 of those. Eventually, I think I will get to these ones. Like I said, would like to get the full collection before I do, so that gives me a little bit more time to get some of the rest of the graphic novels. But Skin and Earth Volume 1, exciting. Very excited for this one. And now we have the pink cover, which is Evercrossed by Elizabeth Chandler, the 4th book in the Kissed by an Angel series, versus The Black Flamingo by Dean Atta. Again, both really excited to read. This one would be preferable because it would, again, kill 2 birds with 1 stone with my reread series. Will the D20 continue to be kind to me? Let's see. I can't tell. That might be a 14. Either way, 14 or 20. It would cause Evercross to win. So thank goodness my D20 has been being so nice to me today. So this means I get to kill, again, 2 birds with 1 stone by making my reread series a bit more of a priority this month and reading this. So Really excited. And again, another shorter book, so that makes it a lot easier on me. The stack's looking pretty okay. I'm actually kind of excited, so let's see if this last round goes just as well. I just realized that I did not roll for the novice or Sabriel, so I'm gonna do that right now because I totally forgot. Sorry about that. So, D20 here, we're gonna see which one it ends up with, and it's a 2. So that means I'll end up having to reread Sabriel. So for this, I'm not super upset by this because like I said, did want to reread Sabriel again because I feel like I needed to give it a much more fair shot. And now for the final round, we have You Will Get Through This Night by Daniel Howell versus Sabriel by Garth Nix for the yellow prompt. So, come on D20, give me something higher than a 10 because I would really like to cry my eyes out to Daniel Howell's writing. Come on. Moment of truth. I think that's a 17. Looks like it's leaning towards a 17 at least. I can't really 100% tell, but we're gonna go with it. So, my God, my D20 has been so kind to me this entire round. So I get to now cry my eyes out to this and then cry my eyes out to Bo Burnham's special. So, oh boy, this is gonna be really fun. And also, not too long. I've actually heard, too, that the pages are not too long either, so this is going to be very exciting. This is a much more manageable TBR than I had expected. Okay, so let's go through a quick recap of the D20 game. So first we had The Wastelands from the Dark Tower series by Stephen King coming in for the first round for the big book prompt. Really excited to kill this one off of my TBR list because it is part of my Stephen King reading series, so I'm so happy my D20 decided to be very, very kind to me this month. I was honestly a little concerned that it wasn't going to, considering how the month of June went in terms of my D20 TBR, but very happy to have this one be taken off the list. Next, for the new author to me prompt, we ended up with The One Memory of Flora Banks by Emily Barr. Again, not a book that I necessarily was kind of too upset by. It is fairly short, so that's going to make it a lot easier, and it is a contemporary, so it's going to make it a lot easier for me to go through as well. But you know, not too shabby. I honestly wouldn't have cared if Bromance Book Club or this had one, so I'm just glad that it ended up being a fairly short pick. Then for the graphic novel prompt, we had Skin and Earth Volume 1 win, which again, very kind because as much as I really would like to read the Saga series, I would prefer to read it all in one fell swoop with all of the volumes, and because I only have this current one and I do not know when the next one, if there is another one after this, comes out, I'm kind of more excited to read this one, also just because it's a graphic novel and it'll fly by super quick. Then for a book with pink on the cover, we ended up going with Evercrossed, which again, being part of my Kissed by an Angel reread series, was super awesome to see get picked because it again kills two birds with one stone by completing a book for another reading series I was already doing, and it just makes my life so much easier in terms of trying to figure out how to schedule out all these books. Yellow prompt, which ended up having You Will Get Through This Night by Daniel Howell winning. I am so excited to have my heart broken in so many pieces. Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm so excited. So these are the 6 books I will be reading for the D&D TBR game, with Sabriel being an ebook. Now, I do have a couple of other books I do still have to read, which are part of my Stephen King reading series and my Kissed by an Angel reread series, so I'm going to go through both of those before I calculate the amount of pages for this coming month. So for the rest of the Stephen King reading series, because The Wastelands is currently on there, I am behind a couple of books. I basically have to still then read Wizard and Glass, which is another huge chunky book. This one is probably almost 1,000 pages. Let me see real quick. It is almost 900 pages, 887 including an afterword, which pretty much is only just honestly the last notes from Stephen King, so it's more like 893, but yeah, this is the biggest book I think so far in the series. I don't know if The Dark Tower, which is the last book, is any bigger, but yeah, this is the 4th book, which is gonna be a little bit more intimidating. I feel like I'm gonna have a bit of a harder time with The Dark Tower, only because these 2 books are so big, but if I can get them knocked out kind of right after the other, maybe I'll fare better, but we're going to kind of have to see how that is. But the other one that I have is the prequel slash like middle book, which is called The Wind Through the Keyhole. This is technically 4.5 in the series because it does come in between both books 4 and 5 of the series, but it does have a lot of prequel information, because we do start seeing a lot of stuff go back in time to before the events of the Gunslinger. This one is just over 300 pages, so this one definitely feels much more manageable, but because it comes after 2 large tomes, I'm a little concerned of whether or not I'm going to actually get to this one, because this one is actually my July read for Stephen King, whereas The Wastelands was for May and Wizard and Glass was for June, and I'm a little bit behind. So we'll see if I can get to this one or if I'm going to have to push this one off to August. But both of these, if I have to push them off, that's fine, because The Wastelands is the most important one when it comes to the D20 game. And then the last book that I have that I need to have on this TBR is my other book for my Kissed by an Angel reread series, which is Everlasting, which is the sequel to Evercrossed. Now, this is technically, like I said, the sequel to the second trilogy that is involved in this world. This one, again, is fairly short, so I'm excited, though, to reread this, because, again, this is from one of my most beloved series as a teenager, and I really would like to see how I especially think about this second trilogy now, because this trilogy was published, like I said, years and years and years after the original series was created. So I'm curious to see how this and Evercrossed both are in terms of my reception to it, whether I find that they're better than the original, or if I feel like they're just about as good, if not worse. So curious to see how that whole thing goes. So I'm going to quickly tally up the page count for this entire month, and we'll see about how many pages a day I have to read with those huge tomes in order to be able to finish all 9 of the books that I have on this TBR. So for the 6 books that are for my D&D TBR game, the total amount of pages comes out to just over 2,195 pages, which, dividing that by 31 days that are in July, comes out to about almost 71 pages per day that will be needed to be read. Now, that is only if I end up reading only what is in my D&D TBR game. Now, let's see what happens if I add in the 3 other books that I have for this TBR. So including the 3 other books that are on this TBR, that brings the page count total to 3,705 pages total, which, dividing that by, again, 31 days in the month of July, comes out to about, I'm going to say, 120 pages every single day. Now, that's actually fairly feasible, surprisingly. Pretty optimistic, honestly. I feel like my June TBR was way, way worse because I had all of the extra books that I had for the Battle of the Bookish that made it much more intimidating. So this is a much more feasible, I think, TBR. So in totality, these are the books that I have set up for my July TBR, including Sabriel by Garth Nix, which is an ebook. So I'm honestly pretty excited because although there are, like I said, some good sized tomes, Sabriel actually being one of them because it's almost 500 pages, I'm, like I said, fairly confident that 120 pages a day is pretty feasible. So I will be very shocked if I don't get through, at the very least, my D&D TBR, which is the top 5 books here, which also includes, again, Sabriel. If I don't get through the other 3 books, that's fine. I have no issue with that because then they can just roll over into August's TBR, and hopefully I can get them onto that TBR game. But I don't know. Let me know what you guys have to say about this TBR. Do you think that I can do it? Do you think that any of them seem interesting to you if you've not read them? Or if you've read any of these, please let me know what your thoughts were on them because I'd love to know if you guys enjoyed them. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me in this video. If you guys did enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock. And I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye, guys!